Okay, everyone, Friday's show, which is brought to you by Practical CBT, simple support for men's mental health. The link is in the description, and we've got a packed show for you today. A fair amount of discussion, obviously, about Wednesday's game against Kairat that we'll go through a little bit. Also got plenty of news, bit of transfer stuff as well, and we're back playing tomorrow. Great stuff, can't wait for that. No, we'll try and be upbeat. Livingston we're playing tomorrow, so yeah, a lot to get through. Yeah, fair to say there's some pretty strong views surrounding Celtic at the moment. Yesterday's reaction video, I think we've had like 400 comments, which I had a quick look back. I think is the second highest in the history of Celtic AM. The highest was also a bad day last season when we lost 3-2 at home to Rangers. So certainly a lot of people talking. And thanks for talking regardless of what you're saying. Obviously not going to have time to go through all 400 comments because I would be here until kick-off on Tuesday. But I've picked out 5 interesting ones that we'll go through. We'll start with a little bit of humour though. We've got Alex Thompson saying, Stevie probably made the Kairat team more uncomfortable in the Hilton Spa than Celtic did all night. And I'm certainly not going to disagree with that. He would have made them extremely uncomfortable. A common theme yesterday, and to be honest, after like any bad Celtic result, is like, where does the blame lie? And like everyone kind of gets it these days when things don't go well for Celtic. I tended to focus in on the board yesterday. My big frustration in a nutshell is that we haven't strengthened properly for this vital Champions League playoff tie. And in my view, Brendan Rodgers hasn't been given all the tools he needs to try and win this tie. However, as a lot of you pointed out yesterday, we shouldn't let Brendan Rodgers off with everything. We shouldn't let the team off with everything, because there's still, I think, a very fair argument that even though we've got huge gaps in our squad, especially in the attacking areas, we should be taking care of Kairat at Celtic Park. So I've picked out Michael Gardiner's comment saying, why is Brendan getting such an easy ride? He chose to play Ida in the middle at the time when Maida was on track to be the top scorer in the league. He has refused to change that in games, can't beat Rangers, lost to Aberdeen in the final, and now can't organise a team to beat the worst ranked team in the qualifiers. Brendan Rodgers wasted 20 million on 2 players last season and they haven't been the best. Why would you want him to waste even more money? And I think a fair amount of that is valid. There's no doubt, like when you look at this Celtic team now and compare it to where we were this time last year, when it just felt like everyone was aligned and the team was like progressing and we had a real kind of feeling of Celtic, you know, getting somewhere, and you couldn't wait to turn on every match and see the team playing. That's kind of gone, and it's not a recent thing. It's kind of been the whole of 2025. There's no doubt that the zip in our play that we had this time last year, when the likes of Kyogo and Kuhn and Dyson were really doing their thing and we were a joy to watch, that has left us. I think maintaining like that upward trajectory has been a problem with Brendan Rodgers in several jobs in the past. I've said this before, I think Brendan Rodgers is a great manager. And, you know, Wednesday's result doesn't call that into question for me. He's achieved so much at Celtic. I think there's always an issue, though, after a certain amount of time, whether you can keep, you know, going in that upward trajectory. And maybe part of that is kind of natural. But, like, you look at his first spell at the club, I think he had similar things at Liverpool, certainly at Leicester City as well, with him going on to be relegated. I don't think he was the manager when they got relegated, but he was kind of part of that season. So there's certainly some sort of an issue there. Brendan Rodgers spoke about this issue back in April. I was looking up his comments. So at the time he said, we always want to improve the team, improve the hunger in the team, because one of the ways to succeed and guard across what I've been talking about is you need the freshness. It's either that or the manager goes. It's as simple as that. You cannot be at a club for a long period of time with the same group of players. And I agree totally with that. I think it was like abundantly clear at that stage back in April when the team was really struggling. And you can put down the other factors of, you know, putting so much into the Champions League or being so far ahead of Rangers and not having real competition domestically. But I think that the main thing here was that like things had gone stale with the squad, and this summer we've been crying out for like new players to come in and just do a bit of freshness. And Kieran Tierney's given us freshness. I think you already see that. I know he wasn't great the other night, but I think generally this season, Kieran Tierney's been our best player so far this season. Benji Negrin, I think, will bring his freshness. He's not quite done it yet, but I've still got, high hopes that he'll be a good player for Celtic. But like, you look at the team we had the other night, and I know there's a few Brendan Rodgers signings in there, but it all just feels a bit samey. It still feels like we're relying on the same players that we were relying on under Ange Postecoglou in the main, and that's got to be some sort of an issue. So yeah, and Brendan Rodgers always talks about pace and power as well at Champions League level, and I think there's no doubt we had that last season in Europe against better teams than Kairat. We had immense pace. You look at Wednesday's team, was there pace there? Not for me. Was there power there? Not really either. So I don't think Brendan Rodgers should be immune from criticism. The last 6 months haven't really been good enough. I think we've had more poor performances than good performances. But I do just look at last season and what Brendan Rodgers was able to achieve. Okay, we didn't win the treble, but we won the double and we had our best European season in over a decade. That's what happens when you back Brendan Rodgers. I mean, come on and chat a wee bit about the actual specific signings and maybe not all of them living up to the hype of the price tag, although it wasn't Brendan Rodgers that agreed the price tag, that was the board. But I think generally, you look at like the general picture, he was backed last summer, eventually, even though it took a bit of time, and we got results. Why would you not back him again? Right, just on that topic actually, Matty McIntyre, Brendan Rodgers has signed about 30 players since he came back, including loans. Where are they all? Seems to me recruitment has been really poor, including Ida and Bernardo. Right, I saw this list online yesterday, posted by an account, Celtic First. This is all the signings, I think, made since Ange left us. A little bit of a rogue list, so Ida and Bernardo are on there twice. Sean McCardle's on there for some reason, and it doesn't include this summer's signings. But it would be a concern to me from that list that only Kasper Schmeichel and Adam Ida started the game against Kairat. And Ida probably only because we haven't replaced Kyogo. Obviously, Nicholas Kuhn would have started as well had he not been sold. But yeah, it's not just an issue of the signings not being done. I think generally the signings we've made have been pretty poor. I think it's fair to say Brendan Rodgers hasn't been a huge fan of a lot of the signings that have been made in his second spell so far. And I think the knock-on effect of that, as I say, is that we still have a team that largely resembles the Ange Postecoglou team. As I say, a lot of the guys we were kind of relying on in Ange's time at the club, Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Callum McGregor, Reo Hatate, Dyson Maeda, James Forrest to an extent, are still kind of our main players we look to these days, and we're over 2 years into Brendan Rodgers' second spell at the club, so there's arguably not been enough of a turnover there. I don't want to see guys like Reo Hatate and Dyson Maeda and Cameron Carter-Vickers necessarily leave the club because I love them and they've all been great players, and I think they all still can be great players. I wouldn't say any of them are past it or anything, but just naturally looking at that squad, I think 2 years into Brendan Rodgers' second spell at the club, over 2 years, what is it? This is fifth window since he's been back. I think we should have had far more of his signings into his best team. So that is a concern. Obviously, we kind of hoped that would happen last year when we signed Ida, Engels and Trusty. And I think it's fair to say none of those three are in Brendan Rodgers' ideal starting 11 right now. I think Ida's only playing probably because he's kind of the best of a bad bunch, and there's even a debate whether he is the best of a bad bunch up top at the moment. What I would say about that, though, in the talk of I see it a lot, we wasted all that money last summer, why would you give Brendan Rodgers any more money this summer? So what is the solution to feeling like you've wasted all that money? And I would say we did overpay for some of the players last summer, but I still think Arnie Engels can be a good player for Celtic. I'm less sure about Adam Ida. kind of Austin Trusty will wait and see. But as a solution to having spent all that money last summer and it's maybe not worked out perfectly, is a solution, all right, we just won't spend anything anymore. That's not like a viable solution to me. Celtic still need to spend that money. We have that money to put ourselves at the top level. You still need to spend money. Just make sure that you're spending it in a better way. Make sure your scouting department is much better, because clearly your scouting department hasn't been great in recent times. Even more of a problem, make sure your new kind of negotiation football operations department is better and we're not maybe getting swindled on certain deals. For me, just suddenly going, right, we tried it last year, spending the money, it didn't work, we're not going to do it again. That's not the solution we should have here. We should be looking to improve processes at the club and make sure we can spend the same money but get more value for it. Right, next up, Willie Larson. Maida's last-minute effort summed up his attitude at the minute. It was a feeble attempt with no conviction. Players looking on and seeing other great players leaving and not being replaced must have an impact on morale. Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell as well. Like, that's a huge part. As I say, a year ago, it just felt like everyone was aligned and we were all moving forward. And now it feels like people are pulling in different directions and there's real kind of debate about what we're wanting to do. Brendan Rodgers made comments prior to the Kairat game, interesting comments about players needing to remember their wages coming in every month, and it's coming in from Celtic, and he did make the point that he felt the players have been great in the main, but you do wonder if he's maybe talking about a few individuals that we could probably discuss, players who I've mentioned earlier in this video who maybe feel they've been at the club for too long. And certainly, some of them are underperforming at the moment. So that would be I think the biggest concern for me would be if we have a number of key players who feel like they've done their bit at Celtic and want to move on, because we all know how the COVID season went when we had that situation. I know there was a lot of other stuff going on in the COVID season that maybe some of it's still present these days, some of it isn't. But that would be a concern to me if we have guys who are kind of looking to leave the club, because I feel like that's not going to end well. Finally, just want to say, everyone, thank you for leaving your comments. It's great that you're interacting with the video, sharing your thoughts. I know a lot of it probably disagreeing with me, which is absolutely fine, with Scott, with Stevie, with whoever else is on the channel. But it's a passionate time. It's a difficult time to support Celtic, but we're all wanting the best for Celtic. So I enjoy reading your comments regardless, especially the ones about Stevie when they're funny. And we could still win next week. I mean, it's a level tie. We've got a fighting chance next week in Almaty, and if we do win, we'll feel a lot better. Right, still lots to cover today. We've got a transfer update, a bit of chat yesterday about Celtic being back in for Jakob Breum, the Go Ahead Eagles attacker. I've seen him described again as a winger. Having watched a bit of him and having read up on him, I think he's more of a central player who has kind of played mainly on the left at times, maybe on the right a little bit as well. So still a bit of debate over exactly why we'd be in for him. Doesn't quite make sense. But anyway, there was a report yesterday saying that we were back in for him and had been back in discussions with Go Ahead Eagles. Stephen McGowan from the Herald, however, maintains that no fresh talks have happened between Celtic and Go Ahead Eagles, with the last contact last month. The story with Breum, apparently we've bid 3 times for him. The highest offer that we've made has been around £3 million, and apparently Go Ahead Eagles want £5 million plus another £1 million in bonus payments if we reach the Champions League. So we're a fair bit away from that. And as I've said previously, if Celtic want to sign Breum, I don't think £5 million and another £1 million, which is, I think, give me a sec. No time for laughter today. I think £6 million in total. I don't think that's an unrealistic amount to ask for a youth Denmark international who scored however many goals last season in the Eredivisie. Said that weird. Pay the money if you want him, Celtic. The other line from Stephen McGowan says that we plan to wrap up a £4.5 million move for Michel-Ange Balikwisha, with obstacles at the players' end delaying a final agreement. interesting. Says it remains to be seen whether the capture of Ballochwisha might end any lingering interest in Breum. And as always, my message is get the deal done. Get it done, get new players in, get a bit of freshness in. Striker stuff, kind of quiet. Will it be Jamie Vardy or someone else? We'll have to wait and see. We're now... window shuts, a week on Monday, so what's that? We're now, I think, 10 days away from it closing. So it's going to be a frantic last 10 days, the way that Celtic appear to love it. Elsewhere, we should get an update on the Alistair Johnson situation when Brendan Rodgers meets the media today. Nothing else really known about the injury. Nothing's been leaked out since the game. What we do know is that I think it's a hamstring injury, and clearly Alistair Johnson wasn't able to walk off. He was stretchered off. So that would suggest it was a pretty bad one. Yeah, again, we'll find out more from Brendan Rodgers today, assuming that someone asks him about it. I think they will. But I think we could be looking at maybe 2-3 months of Alistair Johnson being on the sidelines, which is a big blow given Jota's also out at the moment. Just another injury line that I've got, just coming out of Kazakhstan and Kazakh outlet Sports 24. They say that Kairat goalkeeper Alexander Zarutsky will miss Tuesday's return leg in Almaty. So he went off with around 20 minutes to go of Wednesday night's game. It was in Arnie Engels' corner that Liam Scales headed over the bar. Great delivery from Engels. I think it was his first touch. Zarutsky came out to try and stop Scales and landed awkward. I was looking back at the footage. I think it was his right knee. I know some people were talking about his shoulder originally. I think he was just kind of lying like that. But it was certainly his right knee that was getting sprayed and had some stuff on it. Because he kind of landed awkwardly. So, yeah, the line here from Kazakhstan is that he is likely to miss Tuesday night's game, which is clearly good news for us, for them to be without their number one goalkeeper, although they could have played with, easy joke, Stevie in nets on Wednesday night, and they would have been absolutely fine because we barely tested them. Also out for the return leg in Almaty, Dastan Satpayev. That's due to him picking up a third booking in 3 games, so he'll miss the game. And the Kazakh outlet also say left-back Lewis Mata, who missed the first leg, as well as Georgi Zaria, who also missed the first leg, but I don't think is a starter for them, will also miss out on Tuesday. So Kairat without at least 3 starting players. Just a few other Scottish football related stories before we move on to tomorrow's game. Partick Thistle obviously play us in the League Cup quarter-final, I think around about a month's time. They're asking their own supporters how many tickets they should give to us. They're a fan-owned club, Partick Thistle, so that's the reason they're doing this. And they say that the Wire Stadium at Firhill, terrible name, is our home, and ideally we'd want to see all 3 stands full of red and yellow. The recent playoffs in particular have shown the numbers you can turn out in. However, we must also strike a balance between that and the pragmatic financial opportunity that facing Celtic presents us. So they've given their supporters 2 options to choose between. Option number 1 is giving the Celtic support the Colin Weir stand and a total allocation of around 2,000 tickets. Option 2 is giving the Celtic support the full Jackie Husband stand with an allocation of around 5,900 tickets. So it'll be interesting to see what road their supporters go down. Just knowing football supporters who are passionate about their own team, and I guess the kind of dislike they'll have for ourselves and Rangers, you sense they'll probably choose to give us the smallest allocation and just take the hit financially and give their team the best chance they can of progressing in the tie. But we'll wait and see what one they go for. Also a line from Partick Thistle about the kind of kick-off day and kick-off time for this match not being known yet, and they say they don't anticipate confirmation of the kick-off date and time before the 1st of September 2025. So I think basically what the SPFL are doing here is they're waiting to see how our qualifier goes next week, whether we're in the Champions League or Europa League, and also they're waiting on potentially the league phase fixtures coming out so they can work out exactly when to put this game in. Because I think if we do get into the Champions League, we could play either the Tuesday, Wednesday or even the Thursday prior to this Partick Thistle game. So that would obviously mean that they couldn't schedule the game at Firhill for the Saturday, for example, if we were playing away on the Thursday night. So yeah, that's the story there. We'll have a wee wait to get our kick-off time for Thistle. The other story is that Falkirk have been given an extended period of grace to use its artificial pitch before bringing in a grass pitch. So the SPFL is implementing grass-only pitches in the top flight from next season onwards. However, Falkirk have been given an extra year to make the switch from plastic to grass. I think this comes down, reading the statement, comes down to like money, basically, and Falkirk would be plunged into some sort of financial insecurity if they were to get the grass pitch in for next season. So the SPFL, I think, are basically meeting them halfway and saying, we'll give you an extra year, but at that stage you then need to move on to grass. Obviously, if Falkirk get relegated this season and whatever, then they may not have to worry about that anyway. But yeah, it's kind of been described as a one-off here. Obviously, Kilmarnock and Livingston also making the switch from plastic to grass, but it seems like they'll both have to do that for next season, which seems interesting. I mean, I don't see how the SPFL could really offer this extended period of grace to Falkirk and not to Kilmarnock or Livingston if they ask for it, but they say it's a one-off, so if Falkirk stay up, we'll have at least one plastic pitch next season. Right, talking of Livingston, and they are the visitors to Celtic Park tomorrow afternoon, still managed by David Martindale. They made a pretty good start to the return to the Premiership, currently sitting third after a draw away to Kilmarnock and a 3-1 home win over Falkirk. They did lose 2-0 at home to Hibs in the League Cup last weekend. No Adam Montgomery for them, as he can't play against his parent club, Celtic, so he won't feature in the game tomorrow. Just in terms of Celtic, we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers later today. Certainly in terms of the injury report, Alistair Johnson and Jota are clearly not going to be around for this game. Did see a few people talking about Dyson Maeda potentially limping a bit after his pass back late on in the game when he had that chance against Kairat, so that's maybe one to watch. I think Brendan Rodgers has been pretty clear about making changes for this game tomorrow, and I think the team that he fields is going to resemble the one that played against Falkirk last week, just with the big trek that we have over to Almaty next week. It's pretty kind of short turnover, Wednesday night to Saturday to Tuesday, kind of late evening type kickoff. So yeah, I think we're going to see changes. The team that I've gone for, and it does have, I think, 8 changes from Wednesday night. Sinizalo, who, yeah, we'll wait and see if Sinizalo plays. I think I'd be absolutely fine with him playing. Ralston will clearly be in at right back. I'm going with Dane Murray and Austin Trusty at centre back, just like against Falkirk. Keenan Tierney at left back, because we don't have any other left backs, really. Midfield, I think we all expect Callum McGregor to start. I'd change all 3 players in midfield, and I'd go Bernardo, Engels, McCowan, but I think McGregor will start, as he kind of always seems to start. But I'm going McGregor, McCowan, Engels. Front 3, yep, Yang. I think Dyson will play because we don't have any other left-wing options. And I'm going for Shin through the middle. I don't think he's looked particularly brilliant so far, but we've not seen much of him. I don't think he's started a game yet, has he? So it would be good to see Shin starting, hopefully get him some service. You really, tomorrow, like obviously we want to win the game and win the game well and get a bit of feel good about the place, but you're really just looking for like players to play well and give the manager something to think about for Tuesday night's game. The likes of Shin, Arnie Engels, Luke McCowan, you're looking for these guys to come in and do really well. Hopefully get to see Jemai Simpson-Pusey, maybe, because I mean he's been signed a few weeks now and we've not seen him kick a ball yet, so while I don't think he'd start, it'd be nice to see him off the bench. I have seen people talking about Callum Osmond as well, and you know we've kind of gone through our other 3 strikers and maybe don't rate any of them at the moment, so let's give Callum Osmond a go. I'd be stunned if Callum Osmond starts a game tomorrow. I think he's clearly the 4th choice striker at the moment. But yeah, I've gone 8 changes, and a team that should still be good enough to beat Livingston. I think there's a fair chance, like we saw against Falkirk, although Livy will be a bit stuffier, I think, than Falkirk. I think there's a fair chance you see a better performance with guys like Engels and McCowan coming in, and maybe those guys having a bit of urgency about their game and a bit of motivation that maybe some of the traditional starters are lacking at the moment. So looking forward to see the team in action. Official-wise for tomorrow, the referees Kevin Clancy, assisted by David McGeechee and Chris Gentles. VAR is Stephen McLean and assistant VAR is Graham Leslie. And yeah, go and win the game. If you win, you go 7 points clear of Rangers. Pile more pressure on them as they go and play St Mirren on Sunday. So yeah, we're obviously like Europe's like the big thing everyone's talking about at the moment, but still go and win tomorrow. It's a league game. It's, you know, you're playing a relatively informed team. Go and put a performance on and let's get this thing going. Let's, as I say, get some kind of momentum together ahead of the long trek to Almaty. I believe the team are flying out on Sunday. So yeah, focus on this game and hopefully we see some positivity in there somewhere. The atmosphere will be interesting, I think, because there's, you know, if we don't start well, and it's always the fear if like on Wednesday night, it's 0-0 after half an hour and we're not playing well, I think the fans might turn a little bit. I'd hope we'd stay more with the team and kind of keep more of our frustrations towards the boardroom. I think the team really need our support at the moment. But, you know, they're not playing brilliantly themselves, so I do also get the frustration aimed towards them and the manager. Anyway, hopefully we can get another 3 points and we'll have a video out for you first thing on Sunday. So enjoy your weekend, everyone. Chat to you then.